So it's wonderful to have Rachael Tarfman-Perez here with me today. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist and a women's wellness coach supporting midlife women with health, energy, and relationships. Having qualified bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's in arts counseling psychology. She's also a mother of four wonderful children and a children's book author to the educational Gia series, of which I have one of them here. So, today, what we're going to be focusing on, because you are a woman of many talents and many areas, we're going to be focusing on the women's wellness coaching and exploring how this can help women's mental health, because mental health is a big thing. And whether it's supporting mums and women or whether it's supporting young people and children, I think that it's such an important area to always be exploring. And you are obviously very well versed in supporting people across the board. So thank you for taking the time to be with me today. I really appreciate that. If you could tell everybody a little bit about the work that you do as a marriage and family therapist and how that impacts people's lives.
Well, sure. I got licensed in 2003, and I've been 2003, I believe. And it's kind of been an on and off thing, but for the last few years, I've been working online on the BetterHelp and Talkspace platforms, working with different people, individuals, couples, and I actually have a family that I'm working with right now. It's been really rewarding. I really like the idea of being able to help people, not having to be necessarily in the same room, but, I can work with anybody throughout California. So it just provides a lot of freedom, and I really enjoy just kind of troubleshooting with people and helping them to dig deep and really look at some of the things that they're doing that may or may not be helpful for them.
With the women's wellness coaching, how how did you identify the need for that?
Well, women in midlife right now are basically women between the ages of 40 and like 60 or 59. I don't know how they identify us. Being a midlife woman myself, I noticed that, a lot of women complain or mention that they feel underrepresented. They feel misunderstood. There's even now in 2026, there's still not as much knowledge and experience about menopause and what women are actually going through. And, even psychological changes with like being empty nesters and having children move out, or realizing that the relationships that they're in aren't satisfying enough for them and they want to move on, or, dating, or, losing a spouse, or, aging parents and taking care of them. I guess we're called the sandwich generation, because we're dealing with our kids and we're taking care of our aging parents, maybe even for some taking care of aging grandparents, depending on what's going on. But it just seems like we're not as well represented, and have a lot of women have been given wrong diagnoses or wrong information by their doctors or healthcare providers. So it just seemed like, because I'm also going through it myself, it seemed like a really great niche and a really a needed, necessary.
Certainly agree with you because I fall in that category. I mean, I started my menopause a lot earlier. I was like 41 when I went into full menopause, and I had two children which were very, very little. One was still a baby at the time, or a small toddler.
Yes.
And I certainly found that very challenging. And I felt kind of fobbed off by lots of people and sort of like underrepresented, misunderstood, and misdiagnosed, actually, which was a really horrible experience. So I certainly appreciate there being more space for women in general, I think, 'cause our health does deplete as we get older as well.
Yes.
And energy tends to deplete as well as we get older.
There's just so many things. It's energy, some of us dealing with brain fog, some dealing with, bone loss or muscle loss or weight gain or, just a lot of emotional things going on. We're very emotional. We're feeling low energy. We're just feeling disconnected. There's just, it's so much. It's such a big issue. And so I really want to be in this space and be supportive of other women that need it.
That's incredible. I mean, with the sort of like coaching aspect of it, how do you find that that supports women's mental health?
Well, the coaching program that I went through was focused on three pillars. So it was the physical aspect, looking at the body and how your body is working. Are you needing supplements? Are you getting the right nutrition? Are you active? Are you, doing all these things? Are you seeing a doctor regularly? Are you doing all these things to take care of your physical health? And then the second was the emotional or the psychological aspects. Are you feeling okay? Are you getting enough support? Do you have friends, family members? Do you have people in your life, maybe a therapist that you're talking to deal with some of these things? And then the third one is spiritual, because spiritual is not the same as religion. So being spiritual is about connection. And do you feel connected to yourself? Do you feel connected with others? Do you feel connected to the earth or the universe as a whole? All of these things play a part when you need to make changes in your life. You can't just say, oh, I think I'm going to go on a diet and I'm going to lose 10 pounds. Well, that's great. That's a great goal. But how do you intend to do that? You have to change your mindset. You have to change the way you think about it. You have to change your behavior. You have to change the way you act. You have to change a lot of things going on there. So, making simple changes in our lives that will last, as opposed to
So,
going diet, losing 10 pounds and then falling back and gaining more later. That's where people don't see the success that they want. So the coaching program, I'm also integrating relationships, because everything we feel, everything we are going through, if we have chronic pain, if we get sick a lot, if, we're feeling emotional or depressed or whatever's going on, we're feeling disconnected, we're feeling lonely. How do we show up in those relationships? You know, relationships are going to suffer because we're not on top of our game, I guess you could say.
so in one way, it is a journey into sort of reconnecting with yourself and getting to know yourself on a different level, actually having a relationship with yourself and being able to then make changes from that particular point.
Right. And not everybody thinks about it that way. So, with coaching, because I'm a therapist as well, therapy can go on for years. People can be in therapy for a long time and make very, very small efforts, or even sometimes no effort at all. They just keep going thinking that they're getting better, which I don't like to do. I like to help people make those changes. But with coaching, it's shorter term, and the focus is on self-efficiency, self-efficacy. Is, I want to work with the client. Usually it's 60, 90 days, maybe even up to 6 months, depending on what the program is and what they're working on. But coaching teaches individuals to do these things on their own, so that they are not dependent on anyone else to get them to those goals that they have.
So it's basically learning a new skill set really and paying attention to the finer details and
Changing,
making
changing.
changes.
Yep, absolutely.
So when it comes to something like supporting women's sort of like energy levels, do you have any kind of sort of like just a quick tip and take home that somebody could maybe start practicing straight away or just could pay attention to a little bit to give people an idea of a small little thing that they could start with or pay attention to?
Yes, absolutely. One thing is that we as women, whether we're married with children or not, we tend to give and give and give and give. We give our time, we give our energy, we give our love, we give. And we don't always put it back. So one thing that's really important is learning how to set boundaries, learning how to say no. It's like, oh, well, somebody invites you out to go to happy hour after work, but you're just really tired. And you say yes because you don't want them to feel bad. You don't want them to not like you. We get stuck in that people pleasing cycle. So one thing that can help with energy is saying no and taking care of ourselves so that we're putting that back. And I actually have a free challenge on my website that people can sign up for. So it's a free 7-day challenge that can be extended to 30 days for better results. But, maybe that can be later. But yeah,
Oh, that's
boundaries are so important is, we want to help others, but we also have to take care of the person that matters, which is us.
I've got to say that boundaries are really key. Like in my kind of work, that I'm also a therapist and I also am a youth worker. So boundaries are one of the key things to actually be able to learn. And it's incredible how many people actually, and how many women as well, struggle to say no and put those boundaries because there's a lot of fear involved in sort
Yep.
of like being able to make that space for yourself. So that's a really good tip for them to have a look on your website and really maybe pay attention to whether they're a yes person and constantly saying yes to things that they're really not happy about, and just giving themselves that window and opportunity to test out the no.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one thing that I think is important is to pay attention to your body. It's like if somebody asks you to do something and immediately your head starts saying, no, I don't want to do this, or in your pit of your stomach, you feel like, oh, I don't, you just don't want to, right? It's important to pay attention to that because you don't want to you don't want to disappoint others. It, that's huge. I get it. But if you really truly don't want to do something, it's okay to say no as long as you say it in a way that's easy for that person to receive. You say, I really appreciate the invitation, or I really do want to help you with this or that, blah, blah. I'm feeling really tired today, or I have another appointment, or, I just can't, I just can't do it right now. If we could schedule it for another time or something like, it's like something like that where you're leaving it open for something at a different opportunity, different time. That's great. Or you just explain, I just don't have the energy right now. I'm just really tired. And
Of
that
course,
person understand
you
that.
don't need to be horrible, do you? You can actually be very polite and say no. And I think that one of the key things that you mentioned, and I know that we're coming very short of time here, but one of the key things that you mentioned, and I do think that this is very important, is to be aware of your body. It's incredible how many people are completely unaware of what their body's doing, the fact that they might stop breathing, the fact that they're anxious. I think that's such a good tip for people to start recognizing themselves, is just to connect and think, how is my body feeling? Have I stopped breathing? Am I feeling angry? Like what's physically
Right.
going on?
Yeah, am I
That's
having
such
anxiety symptoms? Am I feeling just like a tightness in my chest? It's like what's going on or whatever it is exactly. Because for everybody, they're going to have different symptoms. They're going to have different things that they might notice.
So those are two things that people can start maybe paying attention to a little bit more, and they give them a little bit of an insight of the kind of work that you can do with coaching women and supporting them. And I think what they can start paying attention to is paying attention to the power of no, or at least paying attention to the fact that they're not saying no is a good start when they
Yep.
really don't want to do something. And actually, what people can also do is start paying attention to what their body is doing.
Yes.
So, Rochelle, where can people find you? Where can they get information on your wonderful children's books? Where do we go?
Well, my author website is just my name, Rachael Tarfman-Perez, no dots, no dashes, no spaces, just RachelTarfmanPerez.com. And my books are all on Amazon. You can search me using my name. Or my coaching website is bound4health.com. That's the number four. So there's no spaces or dashes either, just bound4health.com.